The following program contains tales of the strange, the tragic, and the downright far out. Some stories may include mentions of death, true crime, or mental health. Listener discretion is advised, but curiosity is always encouraged. Welcome, my strange friends. You've tuned into Strange and Far Out, where trippy tales, the macabre, and psychology all participate in the same joint rotation. I'm Tessyrella, your guide through the darkness. Tonight, we're conjuring up the origins of Halloween and, of course, why we love it so much. The lights are low, the pumpkin candles are burning, and the air has this chilling, sweet Halloween energy that just makes us feel alive. So grab your broomsticks, cuddle up with your ghoul, and maybe grab a mug of something that burns on the way down, because we're about to take a trip through the veil. All right, before we get spooky, it's time for our mood ring moment. She's glowing bright green like a witch's potion bubbling under the moonlight. Equal parts excitement and anxiety, which these days kind of fucking feel the same for me. As you all know, as I've mentioned before, I've been on a healing journey, and this podcast, believe it or not, has been centuries in the making. I'm a true procrastinator, but recently I got a sign from the universe when one of my favorite podcasts, Cult Leader, actually read my listener email on air. I have a little tradition that I save these Little Leader episodes so that I could listen to them with my son. So we started listening to an episode on the way home from school, and then we made it home, got out of the car. We had soccer practice later on that evening, and when we get back in the car, the episode starts to play again, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds really familiar. Oh my god, this is my email. So my body did not know what emotions to pick, and honestly, I cried, I squealed, I hyperventilated. It reminded me why I really wanted to do this. So thank you, Spencer and Madison from Cult Leader and Obituary. You two were my spooky little push to finally launch this show. Thank you so much. I'm still experiencing a lot of anxiety. I do get panic attacks. So if you ever have experienced one of those, I am so sorry. But there are ways to get through, and I'm trying to navigate that. Saturday was quite eventful for me. I was able to get tickets to see one of my most favorite artists, Morrissey. I have been reluctant to try and see him again because he has canceled on me. And I should not even say again, because I've never seen him. He's canceled on me. So something about this Saturday just all felt right. The stars aligned. One of my friends wasn't able to make it to Vegas to a big concert there, so he accompanied me, and we had the most incredible time at the concert. But before I left to the concert, literally probably 30 minutes before leaving, I was in my room getting ready. I was putting on some makeup, and I saw someone come to my door, which is not very typical because I live at a back house. So having someone show up to my door is absolutely just not something that happens all the time. So I see these people walk up to my porch, and I fucking just, got startled, and it was one of my neighbors, and she proceeds to ask me about my car. She's like, "Do you have a black Honda Civic?" I thought I got towed. I was like, did somebody fucking tow my car for some reason? But no. She let me know that there was a car accident in front of my house, and my car was hit. So that was not fun. And I walk out. Mind you, I'm wearing a mini dress. I'm wearing white stockings and fucking white go-go boots. I walk out to the front of my house, and I'm met by the police. And I can see skid marks coming from the corner, barely missing my neighbor's car. But, lucky me, they hit our car. So, made a police report. We got his info. We already started the claim. And I had a really good ending to that night because, again, just picked myself up and went to see Morrissey, and it was fucking amazing. The next day, I actually saw my best friend. I kind of tagged along with her at an event, which is Monster Mall. If you are interested, they are having another event in December, so look it up, Monster Mall, for all your spooky needs. I just want to let you know, even if you've been in a dark place, there are still a lot of good times to be had. So I know at times it can just seem never ending, like you're never going to get out of that fucking dark hole. But I promise you, things do get better. Just keep on going. Tonight's Far Out time capsule takes us back to the 1950s, when trick-or-treating exploded across America. After World War II, candy companies realized fear could sell, so they wrapped it in cellophane and called it Halloween. Neighborhood moms were suddenly like, "Sure, random kids, here's sugar from a stranger. It's a tradition." So America basically said, "Fine, just take the chocolate and don't hex me." But before the candy corn and costume aisles, Halloween was something deeper, darker, and dare I say, wiser. All right, my strange friends, strap in because I am firing up my time machine. And today we are traveling back 2,000 years, long before the costumes and candy. There was Samhain, the Celtic festival, marking summer's end and the beginning of the dark half of the year. On the night of October 31st, the veil between the worlds thinned. Spirits of the dead could cross into the realm of the living, bringing guidance or mischief. Bonfires were lit on hilltops to ward off wandering souls, and people wore animal skins and masks to hide from anything sinister. It was the first version of a costume party, but there were no little kids in sight. The guest of honor? Ghosts. When Christianity spread through the Celtic world, it adapted rather than erase these rituals. The church named November 1st All Saints' Day, or All Hallows' Day, and the night before became All Hallows' Eve. The prayers changed, but the old beliefs flickered beneath the hymns. People still lit candles for the dead, carved faces into turnips to scare away evil, and baked soul cakes to give to beggars in exchange for prayers. That's the thread connecting the ancient fires of Samhain to the suburban porches of today. The idea that for one night a year, we honor the dead and they, in turn, remember us. Back in medieval Europe, people practiced souling, visiting homes to offer prayers for the dead in exchange for cakes. Those little soul cakes. Kids took it a step further with guising, dressing up, performing little tricks, and earning treats. That sounds like me yesterday, actually. When Irish and Scottish immigrants brought those customs to America, they collided with harvest parties and neighborhood pranks. Now, across the ocean, thousands of years and miles away, a whole other civilization celebrated something beautifully similar. The Mayan and Aztec peoples observed rituals that would later inspire Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Unlike the fear of Samhain, this wasn't about warding off spirits, but welcoming them home. They believed the dead could walk among the living for a few sacred days, and families built ofrendas, altars filled with marigolds, food, pictures, and just love. Halloween had grown in popularity by the roaring 20s. People had parties and loved to get dressed up. And no, it wasn't just exclusive to just children. Adults more than loved to participate in the festivities. Fun magazines like Denison's Bogey Book for Halloween not only gave Halloween party suggestions from decorations and games, this magazine had the most beautiful illustrations. So it takes me back to the 1920s, when I was just a young vampire crossing the oceans of time so that I could speak to you all right now. Crepe paper was very in at the time, from decorations to fucking costumes. In the 1930s, Halloween wasn't all cute the way it is now. No, back then it was fucking chaos. Kids were out there flipping cars, breaking windows, and causing a full blown spooky riot. And while those pranks were harmless, some of them got so wild that the grown ups finally said, okay, we need to civilize this madness. So they came up with an idea: Halloween parties. Costume contests, bobbing for apples, and jitterbugging under the crepe paper streamers in a high school gym. The goal: get the pranksters off the street and onto the dance floor. But that wasn't all. Around this time, a clever woman named Doris Hudson Moss had a light bulb moment. In 1939, she wrote in a magazine about inviting kids to come trick or treat at our house instead of terrorizing the neighborhood. It was fucking genius. Feed the gremlins and keep the peace. Of course, this was right before World War II, when sugar rationing hit hard, so candy was about as rare as good news back then. That sounds really familiar, right? Meanwhile, in Hollywood, October 31st got even stranger. Harry Houdini, the world's greatest escape artist, died Halloween night in 1926. His widow, Bess, spent 10 years trying to contact him from beyond, holding seances every Halloween. The final one, in 1936, was held at the Knickerbocker Hotel, complete with candles, cameras, and handcuffs laid on the table. She called out, "Please speak, Harry," but he never did. That night, when she finally blew out the candle, she said, "This is the end. Good night, Harry." And just as she did, a firecracker went off outside, like the universe couldn't resist a little showmanship. Early costumes were simple: ghosts, devils, and witches, eerie silhouettes of fear itself. But once mass production hit in the 1930s, Halloween fashion exploded. The 1950s brought cowboys and fairy tale princesses. The 1960s and 70s gave us superheroes, astronauts, and Star Wars characters. Then we entered the era of neon, VHS, horror, and commercial explosion. The 1980s brought slasher movie influences into Halloween. Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, you know them. Also, licensed costumes just took off. You could buy a costume with the character's name brand on it. Do you guys remember those plastic trash bag type of costumes with like the scary masks from like Kmart back in like the 80s? early 90s, I remember thinking that those costumes were so terrifying. Those are comparable to pictures from the 1920s and 30s of these creepy ass costumes. Today, the costumes are less about hiding and more about revealing. It's identity play, satire, fandom, even therapy. Halloween gives us permission to become what we suppress, our shadow selves in glitter and grease paint. Let's talk about what's really underneath the mask. Not the latex one, but the psychological one. Halloween isn't just about scaring ourselves silly, it's about control. It's about facing fear, but on our own terms. And according to cultural historian David J. Scull, the author of a book that I've had just forever and always have enjoyed, called Death Makes a Holiday, every haunted house, every rubber monster mask, every scream in the dark is therapy. It's a way for us to flirt with death and then walk away laughing. He says Halloween works because it's a safe place for the dangerous. We turn the things that scare us into rituals that we can manage, like little rehearsals for mortality. You dress as death, you knock on doors, you accept candy from strangers, and somehow it all feels fine. We make a game out of the chaos. We domesticate the fear. And honestly, who doesn't need a little dark humor therapy these days? Skull talks about how Halloween changes with society's anxieties. That was a tongue twister right there. For the Celts, it was death and darkness. For Depression-era America, it was poverty and rebellion. For the 1950s, it was conformity, so we dressed up our kids cute, and now we fear disconnection, invisibility, and irrelevance. Before 1974, Halloween had an edge. Part ritual, part mischief, part innocent fun. Then came the poison candy case in Deer Park, Texas. Picture this. It's October 31st, 1974. The streets of suburban Houston were covered in eager trick-or-treaters clutching their pillowcases, the joy of Halloween buzzing through the air. Little did anyone know that behind the glow of a jack-o'-lantern, an ominous darkness was brewing. The man behind the horror, Ronald Clark O'Brien, a father, a deacon, an optician, by all accounts, a normal, God-fearing member of society. But he was also drowning in more than $100,000 in debt. He hatched a scheme that would warp that whole Halloween into a horrific ordeal. He bought potassium cyanide from a garden shop. He purchased life insurance policies, $30,000 for each of his children. Then he set a trap using pixie sticks candy as his discreet murder weapon. On that Halloween night, O'Brien, his 2 children, and 2 neighborhood children stopped at a dark house. You know, the kind where the porch lights are out, no mark candy. The kids wanted to skip it, but of course, Dad insisted, and he returned with 4 pixie sticks, telling them that the homeowner had passed them out. The ends of the pixie sticks had been stapled shut, and the powder was loosened. And when they got home, O'Brien urged his son Timothy to try a stick. And within moments, Timothy was vomiting. He was convulsing. Something was definitely wrong, and he ended up dying on the way to the hospital. A neighborhood was in panic as candy bags were overturned, 4 sticks still found in children's bags, even one unopened in a child's bed. The investigation revealed it all. Cyanide in hand, insurance policies in place, a father's plan unfolding in broad daylight masked as Halloween fun. A grand jury charged O'Brien with capital murder. He was convicted after only 46 minutes of deliberation. His execution date, originally set for Halloween night 1982. But it didn't happen until March 31st, 1984, nearly a decade later. And that's my Halloween broadcast, my strange souls. From Samhain to Dia de los Muertos, from soul cakes to pixie sticks. Remember, Halloween isn't about escaping death, it's about learning to dance with it. May your jack-o'-lanterns burn bright, may your shadows teach you something kind, and may your candy be full-sized. Until next time, keep it weird, keep it kind, and don't forget your flashlight.